now you're here. Maybe you're competing, I don't know, with somebody. Let's say you both finished school at the same time, and this person already, let's say, because of how the systems are working, there's a minimum salary they can get. They're able to own a home. You don't. I'm not saying the fanciest place, but you can actually own one.
It can be under your name, which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal. You're able to travel, so you're already seeing the world. You've maybe gone to an education system where you're able to question things. They've taught you soft skills as well. And I think that those are the things that now you see that are different between home. Now, when I say home here, I mean Kenya. And Australia.
Being there.
So it really, the truth is I always was homesick, so that's why I used to come every year. But at that point in my life, because then it was mid-20s, I was not yet ready to come, if that makes sense.
Welcome back to Development Dynamics with MaqC. DDwithMaqC is where we tell the stories of leaders and practitioners. Actually, it's where leaders and practitioners in social impact space come and share their reflections, their stories of how life has been for them, but also what has gotten them to where they are. In 2024, we are privileged to have, a series of guests that whose stories are extremely inspirational. And today, we are lucky to be joined by one person who we have tried to have this conversation about being featured on this show or on this platform since around 2022. And I'll give a little context. So the organization I work for, which is Development Dynamics, the one that hosts this platform, as a matter of fact, it's not all we do. This is our passion part of what we do. We wanted to undertake a journey that positions our organization in respect to what the industry standards are when you're talking about social impact. So we looked around, we had conversations. A friend of mine called Katuchi Nyasindi encouraged me so much to be to try and undertake a B Corp certification journey. And we'll be telling the story of that later. And in that process, I met the CEO of B Lab Africa. She's a very seasoned cross-functional leader whose work in the passion and profit industry, so to call it, in social enterprise, speaks for herself. She and her organization have been able to work with many organizations through a process of quality verification, transparency verification, and a lot more. And that's what we are going to be hearing today. So Lucy Muigai, welcome to DDwithMaqC, and we look forward to your conversation today.
Thank you so much. It's always good to hear other organizations speak about the work that we do. It always gets me inspired.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me here as well to tell my story.
I love how you look today. You look really well.
Your team told me theme is African, and I came prepared.
Yeah, it blends well with your skin and blends well with what we have going on
here.
And
it blends well with what
we are in sync.
Yeah.
Fully. Yeah. So let's hear your story today. That's why we are here. And perhaps more than other places that tell stories, this one, we want to understand you. We want to understand the lady, Lucy Muigai, the mom, Lucy Muigai, the wife, Lucy Muigai, but also the CEO, Lucy Muigai. And to do that, we want to understand where it all began. When I say where it all began, before you were born, what are your roots? And take us through your roots and how you came into being, where you found yourself in.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'll just start off and then you let me know where I need to fill in the gaps.
Right.
So I've been born, I was born back in the 80s.
All right.
Yeah. Millennial. I'm the third born of our family.
Ah, right.
3 girls, then we have, the last one is a boy.
So you're a firstborn?
No. I'm the third born.
Oh, the third born.
Yeah.
In a
family of four.
Four. Okay.
So four. So we are 3 girls, 1 boy.
Okay.
I'm the third born.
You're the last born girl.
Yes, I'm the last born girl. Yes. And then I was born again, I said mid 1980s in Buruburu.
Oh, Nairobi, Buruburu.
Nairobi, Buruburu. So yes, all my life I've lived in Nairobi. And in fact, we just moved, my parents had just moved into now Buruburu, and Buruburu had just, it was set up. And
what phase of Buruburu?
Phase 5 extension.
Oh, wow. That is, so for the sake of our audience, Nairobi has a topography.
Yes.
Buruburu is on the eastlands of Nairobi, but it is the prime eastlands of Nairobi.
And then you can imagine.
And then, so you were raised in a, I mean, you did well. Your family did well?
I'd say yes. Obviously, my parents were also starting out. They're quite young then. And they had started off in Umoja when they got married in the late 1970s. So they started off in Umoja, and when the family expanded, moved now to Buruburu. So my brother and I were actually born and raised from Buruburu. Yeah.
Where is your roots? So you're Lucy Muigai? Is
Yes.
Muigai your family name, like family of origin, or is it your acquired name?
It's actually my family of origin.
Right.
My parents, my dad is from Kiambu.
Right.
And then my mom is from Nyeri. Yes.
How do those two cope? Like those two Kikuyu extensions, how did they cope? How did they cope?
Then obviously, and now they're okay, you can't tell.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've been married now for what, 40 plus years.
Oh, that's really
nice.
That's quite
So they've been married for 40 plus years, but you can't tell. No, you can't tell. Yes, but they met actually, if I'm not wrong, is when they were still in high school. Both my parents have a Catholic background. They are Catholic, so they met, I think it's called Catholic Union, yes? Yeah, so back in the day in university, when they were in high school, so that's when they met, and then university, then they got married.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
What were their careers?
So my mom is an accountant by profession. That's what she studied. So she did that for the longest time. Then in 2000, she now transitioned to farming. So it was a transition from accounting to being a lecturer. And then just because of, life, then she moved on to be a farmer. And we can discuss that later. And then my dad is actually in the insurance industry space. He does what is called loss adjusting.
Loss adjusting?
Yes, loss adjusting. So in a nutshell, and I hope I'm doing this justice, it's when you have a claim and then let's say you've insured your house or organization and then there's a loss of some sort and then you claim it with the insurance company, right? And you're claiming it for X amount of money. So they'll call experts and the experts are usually the loss adjusters who are now going to go and actually now survey and look at the loss, and they're like, call in other experts as well to just now be able to look at that loss and be like, hey, actually it's supposed to be this X amount of money. Is it yes or no? So he did something different in university, surveying, but when he got out, and the job that he got was actually now in loss adjusting. He did the papers. There's some international papers. Now I know there are local papers, but back then he had to fly out to London to do the local papers, and then he actually started his business in 1992, but in the 1980s was actually working for an employer in loss adjusting.
How does that spirit of enterprise, that spirit of education, your parents both have, they're university graduates and they're pretty good achievers in what they're doing. How did that have an impact on you and your siblings?
I think it had a very big impact, even from the schools that they chose for us to go to, right? The schools were very heavy on education. right? You have to have good grades.
Did you all go to the same school?
Yeah, actually, my sisters and my brother, we all went to the same primary school.
Buru.
No, Buru Buru. I know that one, but we went to Shepherd's Junior. And if I'm not wrong, it was in phase 2, I think, right? But we all, but we all went to Shepherd's Junior. All of us finished until class 8 in Shepherd's Junior. My brother got to class 6, and I think that was when I was now transitioning to high school, and he made a case for now,
going to a different school.
By then we had also moved from Buru Buru, but he made a case of going to a different school in Naivasha. Yeah, get the number in Naivasha. So he was in boarding.
Clever.
But all of us actually went to Shepherd's Junior, finished Shepherd's Junior, and then we went
to your respective high schools.
To our respective high schools. Yeah.
All right. What are your fondest memory when you were young, as a third born with your siblings, with your family? What are those moments that you look and you're like, I cherish this?
That's a really good question. And the one thing I know about my parents, and no one is perfect, that they were so big on family. You can tell that because I always remember, like, when we were young, we'd always go to, if money allows, we'd go to a trip, right? We have these photos of, I can't even remember, but we have these photos of us going to Mombasa, like December, a holiday, a family holiday. We have this one where, interestingly enough, we were all born in July. Right? So
every single sibling.
Yeah, and the most interesting thing is I share a birthday with one of my sisters. Then my sister and my brother share a birthday.
Wow, that was planned, right?
So, and there's always this photo we have where then we were living in Buru Buru. So it makes birthdays actually
very easy.
Very easy.
That's clever on a parent.
Yeah, so now what would happen is we'd have one day where my parents would invite our friends, we'd invite our neighbors as well. And then we have this photo where you're seeing 3 pink cakes and 1 blue cake, and all of us are cutting. And I remember that, and I'm like, that was nice. I think life was so much simpler then. When I think of Buru Buru, because of the fact that we lived where there's so many people to play with, right?
Yeah, in a court.
In a court. I think compared to nowadays and where we live, but it was so easy to just get out and play, shake, kati, all those games that we used to play. I think it was so much easier then. The birthday parties, and the fact that I always knew that, irrespective of it, like, we always come first with my parents, because by then my dad had also started his business. My dad started his business in 1992, and his own thing now. He has his own loss adjusting farm now, 30 plus years later. And you could tell, now because of that, there's some energy that is being put towards that. And you can always tell the journey, but we always came first. How do I balance out me starting out a business, which takes up so much energy?
It does, yeah.
And also just having these 4 kids and trying to give them the best in life with where we are right now. Because I could always tell that where we are right now, we'll try and give you the best. And you know how our African parents are. That comes with education, right? Let's give you the best of education. And that's why we ended up going to Shepherd's Junior. Books. You want books? There are things my parents will not compromise on. But there are others, they're like, nah, you don't need that. But in terms of books, is that what the teacher has said? We are going to get that one, right?
Are you daddy's girl? Are you the one that all your siblings would say, you go ask daddy for this?
It's so funny because that's what my siblings say. I don't agree with it, but I'll tell you, that's what they say.
Right.
Yeah, that's what
you kind of look like a daddy's girl, but
no, I don't know. But yeah, so I can tell that even from other interactions. By then, my mom was still working as an accountant. She worked for then the post office, and she also, her job also required a lot of travel across Kenya, now just because of budgeting, and also then also the government, the way they always offer a lot of training. So she'd also have to travel to other countries just for that type of training. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's a very complete life. You see the effort that parents put in, but also for their professional life and development, but you also say that you see how why they really brought family, very centering family to every decision that they make.
Oh yeah, yeah. Church on Sundays was important, and they really tried to make sure we have a stable foundation, right? And I think based out of that is how I'm also trying to raise my kids as well. Or else they also do a better job. You know, I always look at it like as parents, they give you the best and the foundation and at least for me, I'm thinking of how can I even take it up, build from there, right? But for sure, I can say they did the best that they could with what they have. And I believe that's every parent. It's just a matter of where are you at that season in your life and
Very
what you
important.
can do. Yeah.
And now you're in Shepherd's Junior. What were your favorite subjects and tell me a little bit more about school.
Can I remember? I mean, Shepherd's was very education, you know, very education oriented curriculum, like, you know, and I guess also it's because of how we are as a country. We're we're a third world country. So that means that you need, and I think things have changed now, but back then, and also looking at where our parents were from, you have to have good grades. Grades are so important for the high school you're going to go to,
and consequently
for the career, right? So that's Shepherd's was very good at that in terms of how do we make sure you succeed, right? So that means education was core. Did I have any subjects that I'd say math? Okay. I think I've always been good at math. I think. But the truth is, I've always been, let's say, I don't want to say average, just slightly above average when it comes to, I don't think I'm a genius or anything. I've met people who are way cleverer than me, but I'd say above average. Yeah, let me just say above average in terms of just academics.
Right.
Yes, it was a place I'd say I was blessed in. It didn't come with so much effort. Yes.
Any teacher or experience that had a dent on you, like a positive dent on you in school?
That's a good question. Teacher, not really. Am I allowed to say not really?
Yes.
I mean, the thing is, and if I'm going to be very honest, I'm trying to give my kids a very different experience, because I do believe that where we are at is I want us to be more all around. I think academics have their place, but I do believe I'd want my kids right now to be good at also soft skills. How do we build that confidence earlier on rather than later? Because I feel like for me, it came on later. And also thinking through a sport or an activity. How do I build an all-round child, right? Who feels that there are other options other than academics. And I do believe they're still important, right? So I think that's where I'm building towards and trying to do something different or from how we view. But sometimes I think maybe I'm looking at it from a privileged perspective. And I want to recognize that, because I think not everyone is able to do that, at least in the country yet. But I guess also it's what we're saying, from where you are, and then you're able to see, okay, this is the foundation I've given. How do we take it to the next level for the next generation, right? I'm very big on trying to make sure that my next generation and the next generation we are doing better, right? Yeah. So I don't know if I honestly had I can't say I hated school, but what I can say is I'm just trying to do it different.
Right.
When you reflect and you're like, I think it was too much on academics. On academics.
From 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m.
And I'm not saying it from a bad place. It's just that it's just when you reflect and you're like, okay, this is what I would want my kids to experience, right? Where academics is important. But what about if you're not very
Academically
gifted?
Yeah.
And I think kids learn differently, which is, I think, even with us in where we are in terms of knowledge, you can tell that kids learn very differently.
Yeah.
There are others that learn very well in a classroom. And I thank God that I was one of those. But there are others that learn well in nature, you know, singing songs. And that's why I'm saying it's good that we're in that era of that type of knowledge. But there are others who are really good in sports. And that is what, and that's what.
Were you good in any of those?
Sports?
Yeah.
No. But that's because I never really experienced that. So sometimes I feel, I know I have 2 boys, but I feel like I'm trying to live my life in there.
Vicariously through them.
I'm like, no, you have to do a sport.
Yeah.
I don't, just do one, we'll figure it out right now.
Did you sing though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Singing, we did. I mean, we always had those music classes and all that. And drama classes, right? So those ones I did, but I never really specialized in a, you know, I'd say I'm really good at this sport. So that's what I'm saying. I think right now I'm trying to live vicariously through my kids, because I'm like, you know, please do a sport. Would love to see you do also some music. I don't know where it's going to take you, but I'd want you to have that option, and just open up your mind, because I believe sometimes you just need to open up your minds to the possibilities.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you go to high school.
Yes.
And how was it?
High school. So high school was, if I'm going to be really honest, of all my journeys, that's the one that I didn't like the most.
Oh.
It was great. And it's so funny as I say that, some of my lifelong friends, and I left high school over, gosh, I think now it's 20 years. Yeah. No, is it? Yeah, I think it is. And some of my lifelong friends are from high school. So I can't completely write it off. But I think then is when you're a teenager and you're trying to figure yourself out. And I'm an introvert, just generally. It's just that the role that I have right now.
It comes with
yes,
being at the forefront.
At the forefront.
Quite often, yeah.
Yes, but I am actually an introvert, right?
Perhaps situational.
Yes, maybe situational. Yeah, so I guess it was me also just trying to figure myself out. And not knowing where to channel my thoughts or what I'm thinking or feeling. So I think that is actually what made my high school experience not the best, right? Just knowing, you know, because I was so closed up, right? And it's very hard for me to open up, like just as general. There's a level of trust that you need to get to for you to know me, and you know, like you need to gain my trust, right? Yeah. So I think that made it really, really difficult for me to even open up to my friends, to just society in general.
Was it like a national school or
then it was a private school, but now it is a national school.
Will we mention that, or we just leave it?
Let's leave it.
Let's leave it.
Yeah.
But as you're
it's a good school, by the way. It's a lot of people want to be there. Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yes.
As you journeyed through that high school, plus also your teenage, what are these experiences, other than now being a little shy? Were there experiences that would push you off who you are, or would make you begin to explore? Because also that's the time that a lot of people explore possibilities with different things that come with growing up and pursuing life. Just a little bit more about that, you know, teenage life for you. I
mean, the truth is, by then we had now moved from Buruburu. And we had now moved to Thika Road, an estate called Thome. And the truth is, I can't say I lacked anything, right? From that perspective of family, I did not lack, right? Again, as I told you, my parents have always been very big on striving on making sure that, you know, our as kids, you have the best. Wherever we are, we have the best. So from even that kind of, I could honestly even say, can I even say maybe we were, you could call us maybe a successful family because we never lacked. And I thank God for that. And that's why I think for me it's so big that I also able to provide for my kids. And and I remember my parents, one of them would always make sure that even when they come for our, visiting, they must come, right? I was actually at Precious Blood Rerouter. Yeah.
Bomber?
No, Precious Blood.
No,
Rerouter.
what do you call it? What was the
PB.
slang name? PB.
Yes.
Okay.
And they made sure they come. Like pocket money I had, right? But they were very big on making sure they're present to support us, right? And in high school, the school was very, in terms of just giving us, how do I say, structure.
Right.
Structure was very important, you know, in discipline as well. We had to go for mass, I think, once a week, and also on Sundays we had to go. There's somewhere we used to lead mass in a local church. And the truth is, it gave structure in terms of, this, you wake up at this time, like clockwork, right? And my parents as well, again, as I said, at home, never lacking, making sure they show up for everything. And I really thank God, because I do believe the foundation you give your kids is so important to the kind of person they become. And here I'm not talking about material, because sometimes you may lack, but it's just about quality time and all those things that you may be able to give, right? And just the values that they instilled on me, right? So I do believe that is what helped me out when I went to university, because university was actually my favorite. When I look at education, university has always been my favorite. When I look at the seasons, primary, and then looking at uni and university, that has always been my best. But in terms of grounding me as a person I am, from a spiritual perspective, to the values that I have, to who the person I've become, for sure, all those schools have played a role, right? And I mean, I never steered off so much, because again, I've told you about the school I was in, very structured, very strict. There's a time for everything. Well, we were very big on that, time of everything. My parents as well, even as they provided and making sure, they were also very big on values, time for everything. So I do believe that structure, because I'm still very structured. I'm a very organized person. I'm a planner like no one's business. I think it all came from that.
That's the root of it.
It's the root of it. Yeah.
Are there, at this point, are you excelling in particular subjects, or are you beginning to imagine what you want to become?
Yeah. When I was in high school, I wanted to be an engineer.
Okay.
I remember even when I filled out my forms for university, I filled out engineering. I went to do something else, and that's a discussion we'll have in the next. But I went to do uni. But I'd always wanted to do engineering. At least in high school, I was like, yeah, it's an engineer.
Is it because of your dad was an engineer?
No, he wasn't. He's actually, by then he was already now loss adjusting insurance.
All right.
I guess it's because I've always loved math and physics. I dropped biology in Form 2. Remember, I think after Form 2 is when you're able to drop at that time.
You choose to go with,
So I dropped biology and I went ahead with physics and chemistry, and that's because I enjoyed them. What else did I drop? I think I dropped business as well.
But you came to do accounting later. No?
Yes, I did. Yes, but I think I did drop business.
And between, I think the other choice was history and geography.
I did history.
Okay.
And I dropped geography. Yeah.
Those were interesting times when those were actually choices.
Yes, and CRE was mandatory. CRE was mandatory for us.
You got to study about God.
Yeah. So I think yes, those were the subjects I remember. I dropped math. Obviously, it was a compulsory. Dropped bio, and I dropped agriculture. I dropped home science, and I think I dropped business. I don't think I did business.
Oh my days. You know, first, what was it called? Form 1
You
was
know, all that.
so intense, I remember,
Yeah.
because you have to do all these many subjects.
All
I
those
think there were almost
subjects.
12.
Yeah, there were 12
Yeah,
then.
plus art and,
Yeah.
and I think music.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think wisdom would then dictate that you only do 7
Yeah.
from Form 3 to 4.
Yeah, Form 3. In fact, in PB, we had to do 8 or 9. Yes, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And your choice of campus, you say it was initially you thought you would go and do engineering.
Yes,
So,
I thought I was going to do engineering. Yeah, and so when I filled in my forms, and that's why I also dropped bio, because I didn't see myself doing medicine or being a doctor. And I remember I was like, you don't want to be you know how our parents are.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, no, I don't see that being up in my path. So I dropped it. Yeah.
And then, so how did you then end up at doing your first, your undergrad in something different?
Okay. So now I think we're moving to this other. So, I did my undergrad overseas. So when I finished high school, I went to Strathmore, but then it was called Strathmore College. It wasn't a university there.
Yeah.
And I went to, you know, that gap year, as you decide what's next, I went to Strathmore. I did what it was called MIS, Management of Information Skills. It used to be run by, and I think it's still there, IMIS. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Yeah. So I did 1 year of IMIS in Strathmore as figuring out what's next, which was great. I actually did enjoy that season in my life as well. I mean, now you're out of uni, high school, because high school is, first of all, it is boarding. I mean, so much structure, but now this is the time I'm now experiencing
newfound freedom.
Freedom compared to other
any other institution before.
In any other institution before, in other schools that other people might have gone to. Right. So this is now my newfound freedom.
So you're living at home.
I'm still living at home. Yes, I'm still living at home then. That 1 year. This newfound freedom, where now, you know, you go to school, making friends, go back home as you try to figure out. But I did enjoy that. And then obviously now we have people from different high schools as well, also waiting for what's next. I mean, this is mixed because I was already in an all-girls high school. So I did enjoy that year as well. And then it's not so much pressure. No, by the time you're leaving Form 3, Form 4, KCSE, you need to pass this thing, right? So that year is just, the pressure is not as much. So I did that 1 year, and I actually did my university abroad. I studied in Australia, right? So I finished high school in 2003, December. Then 2004, the whole year, I did Strathmore. And then I remember 2005, February, is when I went to Australia.
What was the, why there?
That's a good question. So, so I'll answer 2 questions because I think I didn't answer the one for why I did accounting.
Yeah.
Okay, so always knew I was going to do engineering. And so when we were filling in the forms so my 2 elder sisters had already gone to Australia. So what had happened was with my firstborn sister, who when she finished high school, so one of the things my dad had done and promised at that point was, if you do really well in high school, I'll take you to somewhere else to do your university, right? And my sis did well. She even was called for pharmacy at UON. But now my dad made a promise, right?
So he had to.
And
that's the firstborn. So that's precedence you're setting.
Yeah. So now, so then was a few years back, was the gap between me and my sister, 6 years. So she did really well. So my dad was like, I need to keep this promise. Yeah. Where can we afford that is abroad? Australia, is it then? So my sister went to Australia. And then now because everyone else, it became like now the third born. Yeah, you also have to,
you too. So even your brother ended up?
My brother also ended up here. Both of us are back here, but my sister is still there.
And was it a particular university for all of you?
We actually all went to the same university for our undergrad. And then masters, me and my bro did it at the same university. My sister did it elsewhere. But yes, we all went to the, it was like finish.
That's the place you go.
That's it.
Was there family that side? Was there, why Australia?
So from what I know, when now my dad had to keep his promise, my sister has done really well. So then, you know, the way all these international universities sometimes have, what's this? They have this, what are they called?
Open days?
Open days, thank you. So they had an open day, and my dad and my sis went to that open day. He liked what he heard. I think then the exchange rate was also very favorable, not now. I was like, okay, I think we can try Australia. We can try Australia. And the university, that was Curtin. Went to Curtin University in Perth. We can try it out. So now, obviously, my dad took my sister and did a week with her. Then she went to student housing. You know, most of these international universities will always have like some student housing where now you get in, at least you don't have to think about anything other than, so it's like a shared residency or you do, and you share, you have your own room and then you share like the common areas. So that's what my sister did the first year, and then by the second year she'd already made some friends from Kenya actually. And so by the time now it was me, it was like, okay, now it looks like it has to become a family, a family thing. And so I 2005 now is when I went to Perth and I did accounting and financial planning. So initially, yes, it was always engineering, and my dad knew, they call me Nyambura, that's my middle name, Lucy Nyambura. He's like, Nyambura is going to go do engineering. However, so funny story. And we are influenced by the funniest things. So we had been invited with some friends of my dad, you know, they're always trying to go to each other's houses. And I remember there was a time one of them invited us, and they were hosting also some young people who I'd say they are maybe 5 years younger, older than me, right? And there was one in particular who had gone to, I think, a really good school and now was in Wall Street, and they had done like banking and finance. Yeah, you know, something, and they had gotten this really good job, like starting salon. Wall Street was like, this guy's talking my language. I think I'm going to do this.
Oh, wow. That was the moment, the defining moment.
I know, I sit down and I'm like, oh my God, just one conversation is made you change.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does the person know?
No, they don't. Yeah. So now when I'm filling in the forms for a curtain, I've changed it to now. I've changed it to now accounting and finance, and my folks as well. They're the type of people who won't force you. In terms of what you should do in university, they really try to make sure it's your decision.
It's your choice, yeah.
But because by that time, really, you're old enough. And so they didn't force me. But my dad asked me, Nyambura, you've always wanted to do engineering. Why are you changing now? I just told him, I think I just want to do business. Yeah. And he just looked at me. He's like, okay, now you know we can't force you. And yeah, I changed it to accounting.
And started a new journey.
Anyway, I really hadn't started the engineering journey yet. But I changed it to accounting and financial planning. And that's how I ended up being an accountant. Okay, doing accounting in uni. So they accepted. So when we were filling in the papers, we did that, and then I landed in Perth, February 2005, and ready to do accounting and finance.
Looking back, do you have buyer's remorse for choosing accounting as the undergrad that you would do? Do you have any remorse?
Sometimes, yes. I'll be quite honest. Yes, there are days I was like, I should have done engineering, which is, and if I'm going to be really honest, it's from a financial perspective. You know, I lived in Australia now for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
9 years.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. So 4 years for the undergrad, then the rest for your master's.
I did 4 years undergrad. 3 years undergrad. I worked for 6 years. I did my master's. It took me 18 months, but I also registered as a chartered accountant for Australia and New Zealand during all that period. That took me maybe 3 years because they expected, you just don't become a chartered accountant. You actually also have to have work experience. So you have to have a bit of work experience. Then you're doing some like courses when you're still working.
The equivalent of the
ECPA or SCCA, yeah. So I did that for Australia. So that took 3 years, and then I did my master's, Master of Finance. Then, yeah, so it took me 9 years as I was just figuring that out. Yeah.
That's quite a period to be away. Any culture shock, any things that, perspective of life that's changing because you're there as compared to being back home. How is Lucy, how is Nyambura forming as a young adult at the time?
I honestly think those were my best years. Like, I actually think the best years yet to come. But now we are looking at from birth till now.
Your time in Australia.
Yes, my time in Australia, and I honestly absolutely loved it. I really loved it. Even coming back, I really struggled. Many don't know this, but yes. It was a struggle to actually now come back and settle in. But what I loved about Australia is it really opens up your mind. It really does open up your mind on different cultures.
It's pretty cosmopolitan.
Yeah. And I think anywhere. I say Australia because that's where I was. But I think just traveling and it opens up your mind on just the different cultures. I mean, there's so many. Because now we're in university, and a lot of these universities already, that's what they do. They market themselves and make sure they get a lot of international students. It's already so many cultures. You see how they also, university is so different in terms of what they do. They really try to make it very, not only theoretical, practical, right? The university was very, it was very up to date in term, and you see, it's because they're trying to attract international students.
Exactly.
So that means you have to have the latest laptops, latest, like buildings are up to scratch. I think we used to have like 6 restaurants to choose from. Yeah, like honestly, it was, I really enjoyed
infrastructurally and culturally.
Even culturally, even education, they really tried to make sure it's, I remember by the time I was doing Masters of Finance, and one of these units we used to do, I forget what the unit was called, but I used to get so impressed because I think it was a banking unit. But there was this room that actually had like Bloomberg, like they had actually, and it's not, they're not giving you the up to date, like, you know, what the trends, but maybe the trends are maybe 3 or 4 days later or something, but
you're able to see.
Yeah. And I used to be like, wow, you guys are really trying, because when I had been doing my undergrad, it wasn't there, or maybe because I wasn't doing a banking unit. But now when I went back to the same unit, it was because I was in Perth all that time, they had that. So they really tried to make sure that, you know what, we have the infrastructure, making sure it's very practical, and made sense, and just enjoy your experience, which I did, to be quite honest. I really thoroughly enjoyed that.
what work did you do in the in-between years?
Before
your master's?
Oh, before my master's, I actually worked as an accountant. So what happened is, so degrees there, a business degree takes 3 years, right? I mean, how the Australian university education is structured is, by the time you're getting into uni, it's like you already know exactly, are you doing a business, engineering? Yeah, it's quite clear, right? So then there's no need to do so many foundations. If it's accounting, yeah, we'll do maybe accounting 101, economics 101, if I can remember. But it's actually a 3-year degree. Then, I don't know about now, to be honest, I haven't followed up. So my degree for accounting and financial planning was actually 3 years. Then immediately after that, so when I was finishing my degree, I was doing now financial planning. Yeah, I worked for 6 months as an intern in a financial planning firm. And then when I officially finished is when now I looked for an accounting job, official accounting job. And I was lucky enough to get one in 2008, April, is when now I started working. So then I was actually in energy. I worked for an energy company for 6 years. And a multinational. And I actually enjoyed it. I think that was the basis of showing me
the
scope. I mean, and also just working, when you work for such an organization as multinational, and just seeing the practices, the different cultures, how do you treat your employees, how do you treat your employees, such things, right? I think that's where the basis of that was. But again, as I said, I was lucky enough, I got an accounting and finance job. So I started in accounting. By the time I was finishing now, I was doing business analysis, the 6 years. And then the same year is when I started my chartered accountant, my journey to now becoming a chartered accountant for those. So theirs is chartered accountant for Australia and New Zealand, right? So theirs you have to have, I think, was it 6 months? Must have worked for 6 months, and then that's when you apply. And then I think there were a few courses you need to do, the same things, tax, law, I forget, right? But it took, I don't know how many years, but I finished that and became registered as a CA. That's what it's called, chartered accountant. Yeah.
And before you take a quick bio break, your entire time in Australia, how there are many things happening back home. There is post-election.
Oh yeah, I remember. In fact, post-election violence happened when I finished uni. Like when I was finishing, because I finished
master's or your undergrad.
Undergrad, because I finished my undergrad 2007. And I used to come home every December, except for 1 year. I think the first year, I didn't come home for holidays in December, but every other December I used to come. So that post-violent happened 2007, as I get into 2008, if I'm not wrong, because I remember there was that, like, how are we going to get to the airport?
And you also understanding how life is from a political, social, environmental context in a different place. Were you becoming homesick? Were you beginning to, wear a sort of global perspective on issues that you would begin begin caring about beyond finances, beyond the accounting? What are the things that are interesting you at that time?
At that time, I mean, the one thing I've always loved, being in Australia, it's very efficient. Things move. I've been now in Kenya for 10 years, but sometimes I really, you remember, I'm like, things used to move. Like efficiency, things work, right? So I do miss that. Things were very clear. And I always say, like, even looking for a job, I still get, because I used to be I had subscribed to so many recruitment firms, all these recruitment firms, and they still send me, what's this? They're like, oh, we've done our analysis for 2023, and if for these years of experience and you're working in this industry, this is the minimum you should be. Like, conversations used to be so clear. Everything is there. Yeah, I think I missed those things, right? So then it really opens you up when you start off when you graduate, because obviously because the cost of living is higher, meaning the salaries are higher, and things are like, you can own a home. Right? People used to own homes when they finished uni. And because the interest rates are so low, the government is also trying to incentivize their citizens to own homes as well. So being a home owner is something that is, honestly, it's not as hard as it is here. And I remember that. And then also because of the cost of living, you're able to be paid better to do so much travel, much travel from where you're at. You know, you just look for a cheap flight, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go to, I don't know, Bali or wherever, you know, places that are very close. Asia was very close there. You do a Sydney or wherever, you're just looking for a cheap ticket, $99. Let's go to Sydney or Melbourne. So it really opens you up. And I think there's some experiences you get to have even earlier than later in life when you're in Kenya. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does completely, yeah.
Right? And you see, we always say we're a global village. And sometimes it's just really because of lack of opportunities, right? And I'm like, now you're here, maybe you're competing, I don't know, it's somebody, let's say you both finished school at the same time, and this person already, let's say, because of how the systems are working, there's a minimum salary they can get. They're able to own a home. You don't. I'm not saying the fanciest place, but you can actually own one.
It can be under your name, which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal. You're able to travel, so you're already seeing the world. You've maybe gone to an education system where you're able to question things. They've taught you soft skills as well. And I think that those are the things that now you see that are different between home. Now, when I say home here, I mean Kenya and Australia.
Being there.
So it really, the truth is, I always was homesick, so that's why I used to come every year. But at that point in my life, because then it was mid-20s, I was not yet ready to come, if that makes sense. There was still some luxuries or whatever I was enjoying there, right? I mean, I had not even finished my education, because I always knew at a minimum I need to finish my master's before I even think about coming back home.
Any friend that, or I mean, you say some of the friends that you have till today are from your high school, but now in that place, did you meet like other Kenyans or other friendships that you developed? And
now those ones now those ones are actually like, because I still have some of my friends who live back in Australia, and maybe they've relocated from Perth, but we still speak until today. Anytime they come to Kenya, we must catch up. Like in terms of life updates, I've gotten married, I've gotten a kid, I've gotten a new job. We still keep each other updated. I think even the friends I formed there, we're still very close. I mean, right now, by the way, there's such a big community in Perth. Then
such a big Kenyan community.
Yeah, there's a big African, there's still a big Kenyan community. But even then, I actually had some very close Kenyan friends. Yeah, we still had like right now, I think the community is sizable, very big, because I still keep in touch with my, WA, all those two communities still. But the community was very big then. So I had some really good friends. I actually must say they're the ones who also formed my attitude on life, on spirituality as well, on who I am as a person. I think it also showed me, I don't know how to put this, but it also opened up my eyes, because now by the time you come to Australia, it's an equal
playing field.
It's an equal for all Kenyans, but we're not equal. I don't know how else to put it, but it's an equal playing field, because we all have to go to school. We all have to, maybe do a job or something like that. But it also opened up my eyes in terms of, some of us went to different high schools, right? Or different schools. And you could already see the personalities or differences based out of the school that you've come from. I don't know if that makes sense, in terms of some people are a bit more confident, they're just saying what they're thinking, and you look like, okay, so that's the school you went, okay, fine. And even with that, because there are also layers, and you realize, man, there's some people in Kenya that are doing really, really well. The 1%, there's a 1% there, right? But the whole idea, long story short, it really opens up your mind in terms of anything is possible. I love that. Anything is possible. And we are a global village.
By that time, have you made a decision or a mistake at that time that you're like, maybe my choice for something would have been different?
Yeah.
Or,
that one I told you about, accounting and engineering.
Right.
The biggest one is, again, as I told you, because everything is so clear, like the country. So the starting salaries for accountants and engineers, so different.
So
like
you're seeing it live.
You're seeing it live.
Would it have taken the same time, 3 years?
No, engineering takes 4.
4, okay. But it's just an extra year for more pay later.
And especially at the industry. Now, in Australia and Perth, and mainly, what is big is usually mining. So even when I was there, there was something called the mining boom, right? Then I was not into sustainability, but there was a mining boom. And Australia was doing so well as a country. Yeah, it still is, but then there was so much money coming in and all that. So a lot of people were trying to get into working in industries, and
like
it's
extractive industries.
And here, and the thing is, it's because that's what we are known for. There's so much minerals in Australia. Just generally, there are a lot of minerals, so it's easy to get jobs in that, especially in Perth, right, where again lots of minerals. So, and again, as I said, what they do with this recruitment, they tell you this is the industry, this is what you should. Everything is so clear cut. So as an engineer, whichever it is, the starting salary was always like, oh my gosh.
And that's starting. Yeah. Do you mind mentioning, like, what was it, or what is it for an engineer vis-a-vis an accountant and maybe other professionals, and the gap?
Well, it depends again on the industry. I'll just mention then, because I remember there was this company, multinational then, and I think they used to have a starting salary almost of $90,000 per annum. Then they quoted $90,000 per annum, and that was.
So you're starting at
that's
90.
That's an engineer. Yeah. So there was one at 90. I know others 75 maybe. It depends, because I know there were some that was $75,000, $90,000, and I even knew $110,000, which is really high.
Interesting.
And then maybe as an accountant, again, it all depends on the industry. You could get somebody doing $40,000, $50,000, 60. I also knew 75. All those are different industries as well, right? And all those are actually not bad pays to start off with.
They're not bad pays for 25 years.
By then we are 22, and some of them, the Australians, are like maybe 19 or 20, so quite young. So not bad.
Hence why it makes sense then when you say you could own a home, you could travel quick, you could. You could experience life.
You could experience life, right?
Yeah. And also hence why you said that it's probably a hard choice to come back to Kenya.
It is.
We will pick it from there. Let's take a quick break. Then we pick it from coming back to Kenya.
Okay.
All right.